Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I'm your host, Joy McGinley. I'm joined by Tony Haggerty in Munich at the Alliance Arena, where he's just witnessed Celtic's draw with Bayern Munich that unfortunately knocked Celtic out on aggregate after the two legs. Tony, we'll get your thoughts on the game quickly. I know that you do have to go down to press conferences shortly, but what's your immediate reaction to that from the stadium?
My immediate reaction, John, is I'm super proud of Celtic. That was a display for the ages, and they were just so close, yet so far. But I kind of called it. I said that Celtic would score. There would be a moment when you thought the dream was on, and we were an ace away from producing a miracle in Munich, John. I think every Celtic supporter will be proud of that team tonight. They fought and almost produced one of the best ever results from a Celtic team in many a year, and you just feel utterly sick. It felt devastating when that ball was bundled home by Alphonso Davies, but nothing but pride in this Celtic team, nothing but pride in this European run, and they proved that they can cut it on the biggest stage of all, John, and that's what I'm happiest about.
Did you feel that magic in the air, Tony, when Kuhn stuck that away? Did you feel it was happening? It felt there for the grasp, and it was just so close, yet so far as well.
I tried to contain my neutrality from where I was sitting, but it was very hard. When Kuhn scored, I was just absolutely elated because it was panning out the way I thought it would. Just hang on in there, stay in the game. But Celtic were doing more than hanging on in there and staying in the game. They were a dominant team for quite a bit of that game, created the best chances and stifled Bayern Munich, and the game plan was executed almost to perfection. And it's just a horrible goal, isn't it? When you see it back, it's a scrappy.
Yeah.
But listen, it is, sometimes big teams get breaks like that, don't they? But you couldn't have asked for any more from Celtic. They were absolutely immense, outstanding, John. Some wonderful individual outstanding performances. Arnie Engels, Alistair Johnson, take a bow. Jeffrey Sloop as well. Jota's not even fit, and he was dancing his way down that Alliance Arena left wing. So many talking points, John, but just hard to take at this moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a difficult one, wasn't it? And I just feel like being 2-0 down in that tie after 49 minutes at Celtic Park, to take it to just almost the extra time is quite an achievement from a Celtic perspective. Tony, I know you have to go soon. This is going to be a bit of a strange stream. Ryan's going to join us in a minute. I might be on my own for a few minutes because Tony needs to get down and speak to some of the players at the Alliance Arena who they're all currently getting dressed in the dressing room, etc. So, Tony, will we say goodbye for now and let you get down there?
Yeah, I'll push off just now, but we've plenty more said about this because, as I say, nothing but pride in this Celtic team and the European run that they've been on, but just a real sickener, John. Very, very hard to digest at the minute, but I'm sure we'll just have to get on with it. But life goes on. But yeah, but just can't speak enough superlatives of Brendan Rodgers and the team. Really delighted for them, and it'd have been great for them to see it through, but it was not to be.
Listen, I'm going to take you off the stage now, Tony. I'm going to chat to everyone for a few minutes on my own before Ryan joins us live. I'll be speaking to people in the chat. If you have any questions or any thoughts on the game, we'll try and highlight them while I'm on my own here. But I'll say goodbye to you now for now, Tony. Have a good time down with the players.
Top man, thanks very much. Speak to you all soon.
Okay, so I'm live on my own at the moment. We are going to be joined by Ryan at the moment. He's taking care of some publishing stuff for us on the website. Like Tony says, and like people in the chat are saying as well, I'm obviously pretty gutted after that, and I think the immediate feeling of despondency, will be hard to shake. But I think everyone will wake up tomorrow and reflect on this as a pretty excellent performance from Celtic away in Europe. I think when you think back to what happened with back in the Dortmund game when Celtic just collapsed in that match. And you think the strides that they've taken even that short time to now, where they were down in the match, 2-0 down after 49 minutes, as I say, to bring that back and to come back in that fashion against Bayern Munich, who are a pretty good European outfit in their own backyard where they're so strong at home, I think is a pretty fair achievement. I'm going to bring in some comments from the chat, as I say, while we're waiting on Ryan. Paul Logan saying, proud of our team to a man, we were immense. Nicholas McDade saying, so close, what a performance from the boys. I mean, that's the kind of feeling all over, isn't it? Another one, a good one from X here, from social media. Brilliant performance. That's a Champions League performance. We deserve more, but so proud of the team. We will learn from it and move on, and we'll do us good in the long term. Just on that long term, just want to, the adrenaline's pumping in me after that one. But just to take a moment to reflect here, when Brendan Rodgers came into the club in 2023, he made it one of his stated aims was to bring Celtic forward in Europe. And at the time, that was quite a bold shout, considering he arrived at Celtic with not the greatest European pedigree at that point. I think he'd only had 2 group stage wins in the Champions League with Liverpool and Celtic when he returned. And I think to now have achieved more wins, brought Celtic to qualification in the knockout round, and then taken Bayern Munich really close in that match, I think is a credit to Brendan Rodgers and what he's doing with this Celtic team. I think he's delivering on that promise that he made back in 2023. I mean, setting that out is one of his big indicators on his first day in the job. It's going to be about European progress, I think was bold and ambitious. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of that kind of overall vision now, which is fantastic. Yeah. And so, long may it continue. And just speaking on tonight, I think when you think back to last week, what was Brendan Rodgers' big complaint after the match? It was that Celtic were too passive in that first half, not aggressive enough, didn't have those right triggers for pressing. And I thought we just saw the Celtic team take on that feedback from Brendan Rodgers in that match tonight specifically. I thought they were excellent in that first half. Yeah, and I'm proud of the team and the way they went about their task. I think they easily, Celtic teams, previous iterations of Brendan Rodgers teams or teams we saw under Ange Postecoglou may well have folded in this tie against Bayern Munich. So it's fantastic to see the resilience in this Celtic team, and I think that was the key ingredient that was missing to take Celtic forward as a kind of European outfit. But there's more to come from this team as well. I don't think this team is finished under Brendan Rodgers. I think if we can keep together the really good parts of this team and add to it in the summer, then we're making excellent progress. A comment here from Henrik McLarson saying, great progress in Europe over 2 seasons. And that's key. It's been over a long time. This hasn't come as an immediate thing. And that's what gives you hope moving forward as well, that there might be more long-term progress. Henke saying, such a strong Champions League performance. We gave one of the favourites a scare. We are now able to compete at this level. And again, that's just such a fair point. I think Celtic are a competent Champions League team now. And I don't think we were. Let's not mess around. Some of Celtic's performances had become the butt of jokes over the last, decade or so, especially away from home. And I think we've just reversed that trend. Coming out of that Dortmund game, again, going to Atalanta, a really steely result away there, coming back to beat RB Leipzig at home. Just the confidence that must have given the team is immense. And I know tonight didn't go the way we wanted to. And again, that initial feeling of despondency will be hard to break, because that's what being a football fan is. You live and die in the immediacy and the rush and the emotion of results. But I just want to reiterate that I thought that was a fantastic Celtic performance, and I think it's a really good sign of the progress that Celtic are making. Yeah, so more thoughts from the chat, anyone? Anyone got anything else to say about tonight? Who was your standout players tonight? Who do you think really, competed well against Bayern tonight? I thought Alistair Johnston, for one, was pretty impressive. Jeffrey Schlupp, pretty impressive. I think that was an interesting battle because obviously he's a former teammate of Michael Olise. And I think the switch from Greg Taylor last week to now, it really paid off and really kept Michael Olise quiet for a large portion of that game, I felt. And I felt that was a really good tactical ploy from Brendan Rodgers there. So, yeah, I think Jeffrey Schlupp's looking pretty good. Nicholas McDade saying Jeff was amazing. Kuhn was amazing. I mean, we've not even really talked about the goal in the rush of everything else happening. But again, Daizen Maeda in the build up to that is just excellent. That's exactly what he offers Celtic in that kind of unique pressing role, really hassling the Bayern players who were kind of caught cold for a lot of the match. I thought tonight. I thought that Celtic really managed to get at them and give them a scare. And for Maeda to do that and then set up that chance for Kuhn, for Kuhn to stick that away at that moment, having missed 3 or 4 chances, not him, but the Celtic team having missed 3 or 4 chances in that first half, the composure to stick that away was again top drawer. We're still waiting on Ryan tonight. We're waiting on him joining the stream, so apologies for the delay in that. Just talking a bit about what we're doing. So Tony was obviously at the game. You saw him at the start of the stream. He just wanted to jump on and give his quick, immediate reaction from the stadium and kind of how it felt there. What he's away to do now, he's away to speak to a lot of the players. There's a kind of mixed zone event at these UEFA things where they bring in a series of players. It's not quite a press conference, but the reporters get into little huddles with the players. It's a little bit about the way NFL does it, the way American media does it. So you get nice chats with the players. So we'll have plenty of that, plenty of those interviews coming out on the site over the next 24 hours, depending on various embargoes that are agreed by the Scottish press, etc. Thankfully, if you've been listening to me for the last 5 or 10 minutes, we do have Ryan coming into the stream now, so I'm just going to bring him onto the stage for a bit of a chat. Ryan, I've been talking for a wee while about the game there, so what are your initial thoughts while I get a drink of water here?
Nothing but pride, really, for the players that took to the park this evening. I'm bitterly disappointed with what's happened. I don't know about you, John, it was a tough watching that game. It felt as if it was a constant onslaught of attacks that didn't really materialise into anything from Bayern Munich's perspective. But what I've seen tonight, despite them losing that late goal, which would ultimately put them out of the competition, I just seen a team that has evolved so much, even from match day 2 against Borussia Dortmund. You look back on that, Celtic shipped 7 goals. They were unlucky to ship 1 tonight in the Allianz Arena. The level, the improvements that this team has made in such a short period of time through the course of this European campaign has been absolutely incredible. I've got nothing but pride for the team. I'm disappointed. It's such an unlucky goal to lose after a great save again from Kasper Schmeichel. But yeah, I'm just proud of the team, really, after that. That's the overwhelming feeling. I think that sort of outweighs the disappointment. I'm proud of the way that they played tonight against a really formidable opponent who were not having it all their own way.
Yeah, I mean, your thoughts are echoed here by Blake Owen. He says, you know what, yes, that was the feat, but I'm actually proud of the team over both legs. Celtic played brilliantly over both. Great representation for the Scottish game. There was a maturity about Celtic's performance tonight in the way that they didn't chase the game too much early on. I thought they were pretty disciplined in those opening periods. And, Bayern had a little bit of early pressure, but then it was Celtic who showed the threat and kind of built themselves into the game as a threat, which I think informed how the rest of the game panned out, because then suddenly Bayern are thinking, look, these guys aren't just going to sit and roll over here, and they do have the ability to beat us maybe in counter-attack situations. And I thought that was just, again, a credit to the way the team has progressed and the way they're able to compete at this level. Bayern, at one point there, looked there for the taking. And that's very interesting from a Celtic perspective to think that, as I say, you were 2-0 down in a tie and you make Bayern really think about whether they're actually going to progress in this tournament in the Allianz Arena. It's, that's exceptional, isn't it?
It definitely is, and it shows, as I said before, the progress that this team has made, and the progress that in particular the likes of Daizen Maeda has made over the course of this European tie. I think, or the European campaign as a whole, I think this has really electrified his season playing in Europe almost, having these big moments. He was front and centre of the goal tonight as well. I know it was Kuhn that scored the goal, but it's his pressing that allows or forces Kim Min-jae to make that tackle, which goes horrendously wrong for him. I did say in the pre-match alongside Tony that he does have a mistake in him. He's maybe not the same player that played for Napoli 2-3 years ago, and that proved to be the case again tonight. And a couple of moments, Upamecano sliced at the ball, and then Maeda had that great chance in the first half. He could have easily been walking off of that pitch in the first half with 2 goals to his name at least. But yeah, I think Bayern Munich realised pretty early on that not everything was going to go their own way tonight, because Celtic were up for it. They were up for the challenge. That goal from Maeda in the first leg really did change the complexion almost. They knew that they still had a job to do. And Celtic gave them a bloody nose. They gave them a fright with that goal that Nicholas Kuhn scored. You know, their former employee coming back to haunt them a little bit with that goal. But yeah, I was so impressed by the way that they handled themselves. There was no, self-implosions from Celtic on the park tonight. Every player, my player ratings are out on the site, as are Tony's instant analysis points. Not one player got below a 7 tonight for me. I thought they all contributed to what was a great team effort, and an effort that deserved more. They deserved to play for half an hour more tonight. Unfortunately, when you've got somebody that's as pacey and as dangerous as a left back that Alphonso Davies is, he will come and punish you, and he gets that all-important touch just 40 seconds before the end. But yeah, it was a great performance all in from Celtic. Just so disappointing the way that they lost the goal. And Cameron Carter-Vickers didn't deserve to sort of ricochet that ball into the back of the net, because he was imperious tonight as well. Yeah, I'm disappointed for him, and I'm disappointed for the whole team, to be honest.
A shame for Schmeichel as well, because he had a couple of really good stops in that. I know that, I don't know if you caught Tony at the start of our stream there, but you looked like a man whose brain was on fire, both in terms of like processing that as a supporter of Celtic, and also filing copy for newspapers and stuff. He looked like a man who had rewritten something maybe 3 or 4 times, which is the nature of covering these matches sometimes. So fantastic effort from Tony, and he's obviously got as a lot of people in the chat are, and you could sense that from him, because it just felt, for the first time in a long time in Europe, it felt tangibly there for Celtic to pull off a monster result. It just felt like it was there. And I think if we look back at the game, I think you probably see that Celtic began to tire a little bit in that half an hour, and kind of, obviously, after they scored, had to kind of defend a little bit, which is natural in those situations. And I just think if we just managed to take it to that extra time, I think we would have seen, a little bit of a second wind from Celtic maybe. I think at that point it became about, just holding on to extra time, getting to that point, and then pushing Bayern again. And again, that's just such a disappointment, because you've put so much effort into that, and you could see how tired and how much effort they had put into the game at that point. It just makes it extra heartbreaking for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think there was certain players in particular that put so much into the first half that matching that for the second half, even after they'd scored, was going to be a difficult task. Because I thought Arne Engels was the best player on the football park for the first 45 minutes. I thought he was everywhere. He looked every inch a Bundesliga-esque player, a real £11 million player for Celtic in the middle of the park. He was doing making the right decisions at the right time. His passing was positive. He was making a couple of interceptions, some good tackles here and there. But it looked like he'd put a lot into the game. He doesn't have that second wind that Hatate now has in his game, and maybe that's something to come as he gets used to playing 2 games a week regularly for Celtic. Once he's got that, he'll be one hell of a player for Celtic. I think he already is one of Celtic's standout players when everybody's playing at their optimum. But once he understands what it means physically to play for Celtic in 2 games a week, he's going to be one brilliant talent for the club. And as much as it's disappointing, there's so much to take from this game positively. I think there will be a positive outlook in the days and weeks to come, despite the disappointment being there at full time. You've ran a team close, a team full of absolute superstars. Elise, who tore Celtic apart in the first leg, Goretzka, Kimmich, Harry Kane, who came off at half time. You gave them a game. That they were 40 seconds off of going to extra time with this team, and you never know what could happen. Could they have brought on subs earlier? Could the likes of Luke McCowan came on maybe a bit earlier, if at all? These are questions that Brendan Rodgers will probably be asking himself in the days and weeks to come. But yeah, nothing but pride for those players that put in one hell of a performance tonight. It's a what if scenario, and I don't even want to call it glorious failure, because I think they've succeeded on that stage with the performance that they showed tonight. But that you still have that disappointment as well, and that's the sort of balance that I'm trying to strike, because you're proud of them, but at the same time, like 40 seconds, one last interception, you could have been there, and you could have still been playing at this moment in time. But the fact that Celtic were even in the tie, is a brilliant achievement in itself.
And look, that's football. Sometimes it goes against you, and I just think what we want to see is Celtic to be able to be in a position where something might happen. I don't think the reaction to the Dortmund result, for example, it wasn't about Celtic getting beat by Dortmund. It was the nature of the defeat, and I just think tonight is a perfect example of Celtic have lost. It's they're out of Europe, but there was the nature of the performance and what Celtic gave to the match, and you have to give credit to the players. I noticed a few people kind of talking about the way Diaz and Maeda went down in the kind of the kind of couple of phases of play before Bayern's goal. A couple of people saying that the match maybe should have been stopped by the referee because it looked like he got hit in the face or perhaps a head knock. Do you have a take on that? Have you had another look at that yet?
It was the first thing that I was saying when the goal went in. I was like, well, is there maybe going to be a VAR check because there was a clear head knock? I think it was on Diaz and Maeda in the lead up to the goal. No, the head knock rule kind of went a begging tonight for some reason because Jota got a head knock with the ball. Yes, it was self-inflicted. The ball did hit his own head, but he was dazed and the game didn't stop for another 30, 40 seconds. Or it felt like that anyway. I'm not sure exactly how long the game went on, but it felt like that once the contact was made. For me, I thought the rule was clear that if it's a head knock, then you stop the game immediately to check on the player, regardless if it's a foul or not, and then it's a drop ball scenario. I don't want it sounding like sour grapes because Celtic went and conceded from the chance, but if that's the rule, then you want the rule to be applied and you want it to be applied consistently. And you'd be saying that for the other end of the park as well, because I think player safety is paramount in the game, especially with head knocks and the way that concussions are going in the game in recent times. But it's disappointing. I thought the game maybe would have been stopped. I didn't know if it was a coming together between Upamecano and Maeda, if it was accidental, but I just thought that was the rule. I'd need to see it again. I've only really seen it once or twice, but from where I was watching the game on the TV, it looked as if it was a head knock, and I thought that you stopped the game when a head knock was occurred on the pitch.
And again, this is football. Sometimes grapes taste sour, so let's not shy away from it. That's just
these grapes are pretty sour.
All good. I think it's an important point as well. Like Celtic went away and drew a game with Bayern. I know we went out in aggregate, but drawing a game against Bayern, being moments away from beating Bayern in Germany is again exceptional in isolation, even outside of the context of Europe this season and the kind of ties a whole. The way Celtic played tonight was and I think pride is the right word. A lot of people's words will be proud. I'm proud of the team, that had pride in the team. That's surely what the main takeaway is of tonight.
I'd say valiant as well. It was a valiant effort from Celtic in the face of a tie that looked, for most people going into the game, most pundits were saying it as well. Bayern were just turning up and they were going to turn Celtic over at the Allianz Arena. They've been turning teams over this season under Vincent Kompany. Yes, it hasn't all been plain sailing for his team, but they are back on track. They're 8 points clear. They drew against Bayer Leverkusen. I actually thought that might have came into play in extra time if the game was to go that far. Bayer Leverkusen are a running team. Munich had to defend a lot against the might of Leverkusen, and I thought that maybe the tired legs would come into play. The fact that Celtic still had 3 going on 4 subs still to make, they could have made those changes in areas. So I woulda, coulda, shoulda at this moment in time. I get that, but it's maybe something that could have transpired if the game had went that far. But so many people had Celtic as automatically going out of this game. They were going to lose this game 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, maybe even worse. They look at the Borussia Dortmund game as an example, and maybe it could have been worse, given that Bayern Munich are a far better team than Borussia Dortmund this season. Celtic showed their maturity. The difference between Dortmund and Munich is only 6, 7, 8 games between those two, but yet the maturity levels, the not allowing their heads to drop, when chances were going a begging, when chances were being missed, when chances were being missed by Bayern Munich as well, and they were really on the front foot. They kept their composure, albeit just that moment at the end, but they can be so proud of their performance, and I think that will be the message that's coming out through all of media, regardless of where it's coming from us, from different outlets. There will be pride and there will be an acknowledgement that was a great European away performance from Celtic, and they were so bitterly unlucky. The fact that you've got somebody who could easily be a sprinter in another life in Alphonso Davies getting on the end of Carter Vickers, who did look tired at that point. Yeah, it's disappointing, but
Yeah.
I think there will be that acknowledgement that was a great performance from Celtic. And they didn't get beat. It was only a draw on the night.
Yeah.
Yes, they lost on aggregate, but it was a draw at the Allianz Arena. They get beat at Celtic Park. There's got to be some room for optimism there with regards to that.
There is, but you know what the good thing about Celtic is, and this is a positive, this isn't a negative, is that I don't think anyone at Celtic within the Celtic camp and supporters over time, nobody celebrates Celtic going out of Europe. Nobody celebrates Celtic getting beat in aggregate in a knockout tie, whether it's Bayern or whoever, you know. And so they'll take the positivity, they'll take the belief and the confidence out of this match. But Brendan Rodgers will be immediately thinking, look, how does this Celtic team improve? You know, how do we take that next step? What areas do the team need addressed? Already making a move at left back to kind of shore up that left back area. Jeffrey Schlupp was impressive tonight, but Kieran Tierney, he's another quality player that can make a difference at an elite level. And you look at other areas of the team, you look at adding more depth, and you want Celtic to be stronger this time next year than it is right now. And that's the good thing about Celtic. Celtic hadn't, this tie, and it felt like a bit of a cup final for Celtic kind of feeling. But Celtic won't, like I say, they're not going to be celebrating this. It'll hurt. It hurts, and they'll use it to improve even further. And that's the good thing about, following a club like Celtic. That's the good thing about Celtic. They don't, the standards are so high that this isn't the end destination. Rodgers will see this as just part of the process of taking Celtic to another level again.
Yeah. The teams that Celtic can potentially face in the qualifiers next summer, none of those teams want Celtic. That's the difference now. And years gone by, when I was, watching Celtic, covering Celtic in previous years, where, you've got teams and maybe there'd be managers coming out and saying, we've got a real chance against Celtic. I can guarantee you now, going into the summer, if they can keep this squad together, add some genuine bits of quality, maybe in the forward areas as well. I'd be looking for a top-end striker that can put the ball in the back of the net when required in those big moments. None of those teams that can come up against Celtic in that final qualifier before the Champions League want Celtic, because they realise that them under Brendan Rodgers are a different animal altogether in Europe. Yes, the seeds were planted under Ange Postecoglou in those two Champions League campaigns, but over these last two or it was just the one Champions League campaign from Ange Postecoglou, but two from Brendan Rodgers, you're seeing those shoots, not even of recovery, but of improvement in a team that's grown in maturity and understanding what to do in those situations. They've been a part of every single European tie possible, it seems, this season. They've just not really had that sort of heartbreak at the last minute, and I suppose that makes it symmetrical, because I've not had that disappointment right at the end. Yes, they had the highs of the late goal against Young Boys. I suppose it's fair that they get it the other way about. But if you're going to lose a late goal, to cruelly go out, the Allianz Arena, what an effort they put in. And I just think there'll be lots more positives than the negatives. The only one negative is that they conceded that goal late. Everything else is positive. So that's I think that just shows you how well and how far Celtic have come in such a short period of time.
And obviously lots to look forward to in the end stage of the season in terms of domestic potential treble, going for that. Listen, Ryan, I think we'll round off this evening. We've been chatting for about half an hour. We'll be back tomorrow. Hamish is on in the morning. I think it'll probably be myself joining him, waking up tomorrow, see how it feels tomorrow. Obviously, Tony's covering a lot for us. He's away speaking to players in Munich right now as we speak. So that'll be going up on the website over the next 24 hours. We'll have plenty of reaction from Brendan Rodgers, etc., etc. There's lots more to come on the channel and the website over the next while. And hopefully, everyone's, in the end, feeling good about the progress Celtic are making in Europe. Any final comments before we say goodbye?
Gutted about the way it ended, but my goodness, what a performance in the face of adversity from Celtic. One thing I would say is that the Celtic board should be looking at getting Brendan Rodgers signed on an extended deal, because the improvements are there for all to see. That was the biggest showing of it yet, I would say, in European competition. Between that and the Leipzig game, I get both against German opposition, the valiant effort that they showed. I think Celtic have got to secure their manager. The hierarchy have got to secure their manager for another few years. because the improvements are there for all to see. But yeah, disappointed but proud of the team all the same. I'm sure I'll be feeling a lot more optimistic about things tomorrow, but it is still quite bitter and quite disappointing at this moment in time.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Thanks everyone in the chat joining us. Close to 900 people on live with us at 10:30 after Celtic get knocked out of Europe. That's what we like to see. We like to come together in these moments, chat about Celtic, see what the lay of the land is and move forward. Celtic will be doing that internally as well. We'll be back tomorrow with more Celtic chat. We've been the Celtic Way tonight. Again, thanks for joining us. Good night.